So we're throwing out globally about 30% of all food produced. Upcycling is a great solution because we have to feed 10 billion people by 2050, and that's not going to be a matter of growing more food, but using the food that we already grow more efficiently because we already produce enough food to feed people.
Hey everyone, in the next interview leading up to creating a vegan world documentary, we're speaking with Caroline, which is the co-founder and COO of Renewal Mill, which is an upcycling food company. And Renewal Mill is combating a problem of food waste where more than 30% of the food goes to waste annually, which could feed up to 3.5 billion people. So if you're interested in this topic, subscribe to this channel and visit renewalmill.com if you want to see the products that Caroline and her company offers.
So Renewal Mill is a next generation ingredients company. So we're really focused on fighting climate change and global food loss by taking the byproducts of food manufacturing and turning them into premium ingredients and finished plant-based products. We started by upcycling the byproducts of plant-based milk and turning those into high fiber, high protein, gluten-free flours. And we sell those flours to other businesses for inputs in their own products, and then use some of those ingredients in our own finished products for retail.
Awesome. And I remember seeing the statistics on your Republic page where there's the problem that you're solving at the bigger picture with food waste. So can you talk a little bit more about the statistics for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So food waste is actually one of the largest drivers of climate change, which is not normally what people think of when they think of sort of greenhouse gas emissions. But if food waste were a country, it would be sort of the third largest greenhouse gas emitter behind only China and the US. So we're throwing out globally about 30% of all food produced. And that has a huge environmental impact because we're wasting all of the resources that went into growing and producing that food. And we also, it's a kind of we call it the world's stupidest problem because we're throwing out all this food when 1 in 7 Americans are going hungry. And we are going to have to feed a growing population that's going to quickly approach 10 billion people by 2050.
Definitely. Yeah, I remember reading on your page where like the amount of food thrown away could feed 3.5 billion people. And this is at the supply chain level. It's not even at, I guess, people's homes where they have food waste there. So it's really interesting that works. And then I think one of the quotes I saw on your Republic page was, it's not a matter of producing more food, but using the food we already produce more efficiently. Because we just had an article written for us where it's really talking about how animal agriculture is doing a lot of food waste, where I don't have the statistics in front of me, but it's like for every 100 acres of land, I guess 90% of that goes to feeding the cattle. We're only get 10% of the calories. So in addition to solving the land problem, this is a great way to feed more people.
Yeah, definitely. Well, there's so many parts of our food system where nutrition is just being lost and it's kind of arbitrarily labeled as waste. So when we're talking about byproducts, they're, super clean, they're food safe. They're actually some of the most nutritious parts of our food because we're often processing out this fiber and then just throwing it away. So we're able to capture that and bring that nutrition back to people's plates across all different sorts of production lines.
Definitely. With the name you chose, Okara, where you said in the Japan, they already have a name for that. And this is already a common thing where in the West, they get rid of that. Can you talk more about that?
For sure. Yeah. So Okara is the name for the soybean pulp left over when you make soy milk. It's a traditional Japanese word. So O is kind of an honorific and Kara means husk. So the whole word kind of means honoring the husk or honoring the whole bean. In a country like Japan, soy milk is something you would make at home. And if you had made it at home, you would never throw away that pulp that comes after you kind of strain off the liquid. So they find creative uses for it, like a konomiyaki, which is like a savory pancake, or sauteing it with vegetables to create a side dish. You can even make desserts out of it, like pound cake. So Miyoko of Miyoko's Creamery, her first company was actually an Okara pound cake company in Japan. So it has a health halo and a storied history, but it's really about celebrating the entirety of that product, the way that we kind of think of, using everything and kind of hearkening back to the ideas of our grandmothers of not letting anything go to waste.
Awesome. Yeah. So what got you into this? What's your passion about this and kind of like your backstory?
Yeah, so I have a co-founder named Claire, and her previous business was the first organic juice company in Boston. And she was taking a lot of care to source this really premium organic produce to make juice. And then at the end of the day was just appalled by the amount of pulp she was left with through that process. And she tried to find some ways to use it, like making muffins and stuff like that, but there was just so much pulp that she couldn't deal with it. And then we had a fortuitous meeting with the owner of the largest artisanal tofu company in the US, which is called Cotto Foods. And we got to chatting, and he was telling Claire, you think you have a pulp waste problem. I'm producing, more than 50 tons a week of pulp in my tofu facility. And it's kind of when the light bulb went off that there's just, like I was kind of saying, all of these places where this nutritious pulp is being lost when it could really be captured. My personal background is more on the nutrition side of things. So I had done a lot of work on child obesity and food deserts in the US, and seen kind of firsthand what the lack of affordable nutrition can do to communities and people's health. And so it's always been in the food industry, but especially passionate to work for a mission-driven brand that is serving both environmental and personal health.
That's great. Yeah. My first business was an app company where it was to do the business, to make the money. But now that I'm doing the documentary and my vegan business, where having the fulfillment behind it and the mission driven, it's like rewarding as we go through the process. So it's really cool to see you doing that too.
Totally.
So for at the consumer level, so people that go to the grocery stores, they buy different products. What could they do to either help your movement, help the movement as a whole, or combat food waste in general?
Yeah. So a lot of food waste happens at the consumer level. So definitely there's a lot that people can do in their own kitchens to make sure that they're, only purchasing as much as they need, taking methods in preparing food, like not storing things together that will cause food to go bad more quickly, freezing extra food that they can't eat in the amount of time before it will go bad, things like that. But when we're kind of talking about it, we want to make the sustainable choice the easy choice for consumers. And so with upcycled food, we're really trying to have it be a swap for ingredients in products that they would already normally buy in the grocery store. And we're working with a bunch of other upcycled food brands in the Upcycled Food Association to craft a certification program so that products will be certified upcycled the way that they're certified organic or certified non-GMO, so that people can really use the power of their dollar when they're shopping in the grocery store to put money behind this effort to reduce food waste and make sure that we're creating the most efficient food system possible.
Definitely. Yeah. I just interviewed Carissa Kranz, where she's from BVeg, where she has the vegan certification. And she talks about how it's the real legitimate process. It's not just like stamping a logo on there. And the best way is for consumers to take it seriously, because when consumers buy it, it grows more demand and makes it a real thing. So it's cool that you're doing it in the same sense there.
Yeah. And we have a split business model too. So we're selling ingredients business to business, but also selling finished products directly to the consumer. And we see that consumer demand really actually drives the business to business side as well, because you're ultimately driving that demand up to companies and saying, we are willing to spend more money on sustainable products. We want to we're demanding products that are more environmentally friendly and doing the right thing. So yeah, definitely agree with her.
Definitely. And I think we just first got in touch when I was interested in adding products to Vegan Health Pack, which is the monthly subscription box.
Yeah.
And wasn't really until I heard your story behind what you're doing and just really the mission behind that, where it's like the interest was there, but that just like made it really go up, where I think you talked about the marketing behind this to, I think, getting things out there. We're number one, making sure people know that it is highly nutritious. It's real from real manufacturers. And can you talk about the marketing side of that to get to consumers?
Yeah, so I think, marketing is a huge part of what we're doing with upcycled food. So we kind of talk about not wanting to like yuck people's yum. Like we're talking about food waste, but actually it really needs to be reframed as wasted food. And so when we're thinking about that, we're trying to draw that connection for consumers to the larger picture. So we're actually in the midst of going through a brand refresh on our side, where all of our packaging is going to be reflective of like changing weather patterns, because like I was mentioning early on in our conversation, food waste is really driving climate change. And that's really what we want people to focus on here, is that this is solving a much larger issue. It's not just, these byproducts are going to waste, but actually they have a lot of negative impacts downstream, and we're trying to bring that to the forefront of people's attention. And then, yeah, raise awareness. I think when we started this business 4 years ago, people kind of were, shocked at the statistic of food waste, and like 40% of food going to waste in the US, and this being a $1.2 trillion problem. But I think now people kind of know that food waste is an issue, and they want to know what they can do to help. And so that's really also how we're marketing this, is like, this is a consumer-driven solution to food waste reduction.
Definitely. And I remember when I was going through Colorado, I did a thing for us through Foods Not Bombs. I had a friend who set up that, where they went in a dumpster behind, I forget, one of the big supermarkets there. They opened the dumpster, which was locked to prevent people from getting the food from it. And they were picking out, it was kind of aged fruit, but it was still edible, putting that boxes, cooking it, feeding it next to a homeless shelter, and really good things there. And I think the key thing, the difference is, like, when I first picture food waste, I picture something like that, getting food pulled out of dumpsters, where when I watch the videos of your product, it's from a USDA, is a USDA certified facility, or FDA, was it? And
Yeah.
a legitimate organic facility, and you get that off the lines, and it's not the same thing at all. And seeing that clear difference really helps, in my opinion.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. There's a huge education piece. I think, like, I like to joke that when we first started this, I was presenting at a conference and somebody was like, "This is the trash cookie lady." And you're like, "Nope, that's not what we do at all." So yeah, we're really trying to tell people that, like, this is just laziness in the food system, frankly, of, these products going to waste. They're completely food safe. They're completely clean. Like, they're super healthy and nutritious. And it's just that they haven't had the economic imperative to deal with them. And so we're creating that economic incentive by turning waste into revenue, and this environmental imperative, as we kind of see the very real effects of the climate crisis, and needing to do something now for it.
What different opportunities are there in the business world, whether it's businesses like yours? I mentioned earlier in our conversation with the materials fabric from the plant-based industry. They can make materials from, like, recycled pineapples, things like that, or other businesses at your side, as well as manufacturing facilities. So could you speak to both of those a little bit?
Yeah, so food waste is an issue that needs to be solved at every level of the food supply chain. So there's definitely companies within this ecosystem that are working at different parts and upcycling different things. For us, with the Upcycled Food Association and what Renewal Mill is working on, we're really working according to the USDA hierarchy of food use. So the best use of food, or preventing food waste, is preventing it in general, so preventing that waste from happening. But the next best use is feeding it to people, and then down from there to animal feed, and then down from there to compost and things like that. So in our case, we're trying to make sure that as much as possible, our products are feeding people, but we also do sell into the pet food market. And then our Okara can be used as a substrate for growing mushrooms and things like that. There are also some of our peers in the Upcycled Food Association that are doing things like cosmetics, or not ready to, like, not edible foods, but kind of things like face scrubs and things that use the inedible parts of food, but that are still being upcycled. So extracts from peels, or pits of things like that. But yeah, definitely a lot of creativity in the space, and kind of a huge number of opportunities that haven't even been tapped yet, for sure.
Cool. And if you have a message for different manufacturing facilities, I guess there's an economic incentive for them to pay attention, like, why am I throwing away this waste? They'll save money and probably turn it into a revenue stream.
Yeah, for sure. So some of the partners that we work with were able to have farmers come pick up waste intermittently for animal feed, but it's a really inconsistent offtake solution. And when the farmers don't come, then their only option is to pay to have it trucked away to landfill. So by upcycling, we're able to be a really consistent offtake solution, and to pay a streamlined price for that product. So yeah, it's definitely a huge incentive for these producers to work with upcyclers, and not have to pay any of those transportation headaches to have their products taken away. But also, we're seeing organic waste bans go into places in states like California and others, where they're no longer going to be allowed to just dump it in landfill, or spread it on fields. And so they have to have a better solution. And upcycling is a way to make that economically incentivized and viable for them.
Great. And can you describe, like, a best case scenario, the perfect world where, I guess, the food waste is gone? How do you envision that being?
Yeah, there's a lot of food waste stories, like upcycling stories that have become so mainstream that we don't even think of them as upcycling stories. So things like whey protein actually started as an upcycled food. They had all of this whey protein from the cheese making process. They weren't sure what to do with it, and now we have a booming market for whey protein for fitness nutrition. Similar thing with tater tots. Like the tater tot came about because it was an original upcycled food with sort of trimmings left over that they were looking for. I think our goal is to make upcycled products mainstream enough that we've solved the food waste solution. We don't see that happening anytime soon, so we're continuing to build this market for it. But definitely want producers to start thinking about, like I said, according to that hierarchy, how can you first and foremost prevent waste from happening? And then when there is waste, how can we make sure that we're creating circular systems so that we're keeping everything in rotation and not letting it go to waste?
Great. Yeah, I love how you do it at the manufacturer level, because in general, consumers, where a lot of people have to reach, it's harder to make the change there. So that's great.
Yeah,
And
I think, sorry, my kind of personal work in nutrition had showed me that like behavior change at the individual level is really hard. And so when we think about it at the manufacturing level, we're trying to make it really easy. And that's why we're working in a business to business capacity to get these upcycled products into the hands of consumers without them having to change their daily habits significantly.
Great. And are all your products gluten-free? I'm just going on your website, just kind of asking personally, because just the other day yesterday I made vegan brownies, and I don't normally cook desserts and stuff, but when I put all the flour in there, I'm like, wow, this is a lot of gluten, and I had the sugar and stuff. So I'm on
Yeah,
the health side of things. It looks like it's a lot healthier too.
yeah. So all of our ingredients are vegan and gluten-free. We have one ready-to-eat chocolate chip cookie product that does have a blend of Okara and wheat flour, but all of our baking mix products are entirely gluten-free. So Renewal Mill is trying to be the upcycled or the food industry's go-to supplier for upcycled ingredients and really building a full portfolio. So we started with the byproduct of soy milk, which is Okara, but our second ingredient is the byproduct of oat milk production and turning that into a high fiber gluten-free oat milk flour, and doing similar things with other plant-based milks like almond milk and pea milk. And the pea starch left over from that process, as well as like the seed cakes left over from oil extractions. Because we see the ultimate vision here as having it be an easy swap for food producers to kind of go to a one-stop shop and switch out their ingredients for upcycled products.
That's great. And you said you work with B2B and B2C. So I guess consumers or businesses, if they're interested in working with you, where could they go and contact you?
Yeah, so we sell all of our products through renewalmill.com, as well as a number of e-commerce platforms for our finished goods. So places like Amazon, Thrive Market, Misfits Market, Imperfect Foods. And then we also sell right now in Whole Foods Northern California and a number of retail distribution points on the West Coast, but we're hoping to expand nationwide this year. So Renewal Mill is also a plant-based company. So we have a vegan investor out of Europe. So all of our products will always be plant-based, and we see that as really very important to the upcycling mission as well, because right after reducing food waste, eating a plant-based diet is the number 2 solution to fighting climate change. So definitely important to us. And our baking mixes are just add oil and water. So really trying to cater to the vegan market that's been overlooked in the baking aisle.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for listening through to the end. And Renewal Mill will be featured in Creating a Vegan World documentary. So if you're interested in updates, subscribe to this channel. We have more interviews leading up to the documentary. And if you're interested in a product, visit renewalmill.com and check out what she has to offer.